Welcome to this episode of Real to Real, everybody.
Oh, the tonal change is going to be
we're going to have to
now.
change our tones, and this is what we do here. What our big broichy boy pants does. I'm here with my boys, Eric and Wilson. Hello.
Hello.
We're going to continue our watching of movies, and in this episode, we are going to be watching Wilson's pick. Our previous pick was Broadshows, which was Broadshow. Do you remember?
Dracula.
Do you remember your own movie that you chose, Eric?
I did.
I hope you have the correct answer, because if not, I don't know.
And this week is Wilson's pick, like I said. So, Wilson, what did you choose?
I chose the movie is it artificial intelligence or is it AI?
Artificial intelligence.
AI, artificial intelligence.
That's the full title.
Okay, so that one by Steven Spielberg / Stanley Kubrick.
With, was this the one with fucking Haley Joel?
And
other
supporting
and
people,
Jude Law.
Was it William Hurt?
Supporting people. William Hurt, yeah, I believe.
He's the one that makes the little guy, right? Or he's a scientist? Or I forget.
He is somebody, I believe, the main designer
of the David
or something. He has a leadership position on the team that creates David and the other robots.
And yeah, there's a bunch of other supporting people in this too that pop up throughout. But yeah, this is a throwback. I haven't seen this in a long time, so.
The little brother, I have no idea the actor's name, but the little brother from the Lizzie McGuire show shows up in this. I think that it might be in this that he wears a shirt that I had the exact same shirt. So when I saw this as a kid, I was like, holy shit, I wear the same clothes as a movie star.
Maybe it was just a popular shirt.
And also seeing this as a child was a very interesting experience.
And we'll talk about that because last time I watched this was probably more towards my childhood persona.
Can we do something a little bit different than what we usually do? Can we just can we look up the original trailer for this, theatrical trailer?
Okay.
Because I remember the trailer being it's basically advertised and in a way that's drastically different than what the movie ends up being.
Okay. Trailer HD. All right, I'm ready. I am going to share my screen. We can all watch together.
No, just kidding.
Why the hell are you here then, Bradshaw? Why the fuck are you here? All right, are you on? Okay.
Are you on?
Are you on it?
Maybe.
When's your birthday?
When's your birthday?
When's your birthday?
I never had a birthday.
His name is David.
I feel it. That's creepy. Whoa, feels so real.
Yes.
In a distant future, in an age of intelligent machines, he is the first robotic child programmed to love.
This is Kingsley, isn't it?
And coexist as a member of a family.
Yeah,
It is a tale of humanity and a journey to find his place among humans and machines.
I'm a boy.
You are a real boy. At least as real as I've ever made one.
He is not. Interesting. All right.
Those tiny bursts on the letters at the end were distracting.
I remember there was one, because Robin Williams plays a bit in this, and I remember there was one trailer that I saw
Bicentennial Man?
a bunch with the Robin Williams character featured, and it kind of just painted the movie, the trailer was more happy and upbeat, and the movie itself was not.
It was not marketed how the final cut was. I've seen that one where it's like a more bubbly, like, hey, this is a kid that is not real, but maybe by the end he'll become real, or
Yeah, and it's about like him going on the journey with like Jude Law, and it's definitely trying to channel more of that like Pinocchio, like adventure feel
with a weird dark twist. And Pinocchio is already really dark, and it has to deal with death, like from the source material. It is very much a death-centered story, or creepy and dark. But I mean, this is very somber, very quiet, from what I remember.
Jude Law is a lot of fun in this, and it's also like if you want to draw the Pinocchio parallels, and we can get more into this after the movie, but he's like part Jiminy Cricket, part Honest John, and part
he's
Lampwick,
definitely
all rolled up into one. So it's just fun to see him
his
perform.
teddy bear is more like a Jiminy to me.
Yeah, but I just mean like he does also do things to guide in ways that are not just to cause mischief, but also to like try and actually genuinely look out for somebody.
A life outside of a family life, like.
But it's all coming from a
sex bot,
freaking sex bot. So it's just,
hey Jane, how's the game? Hey Joe, what do you know? I remember that was the limerick that they would say to each other, the sex bots. Hey Joe, what do you know?
Yeah, Gigolo Joe, what do you know? His little tap dance that he does in the rain, and he's trying to tell this little robot boy about how to like pleasure a human, how a robot figures out how to pleasure a human.
So creepy. Talking to a little kid about that.
And like, so I don't know if you know this, Eric, but this was basically written and like most of the way developed and almost went into production under the helm of Stanley Kubrick. This was something that he thought of. And then Steven Spielberg basically was like,
I'll make it.
I'll
over. Try to make it with the understanding that I'm trying to make this as your proxy. Not like as Steven Spielberg would make it, but like as a Stanley person would do it.
Yeah. So whatever the actual story is, we can look into that. But knowing that, like through those two lenses, this thing is coming from, it adds, I think, a lot more to what's on screen.
All right, boys, let's jump into AI. Artificial intelligence.
Playtime's over, kids.
A. Or I.
And you can watch this on Amazon. That's what I'm watching it on right now. So.
Aye. If they made it,
aye.
What would it be called? AI 2. Double Haley Joel Osment.
Double Joel Osment.
I don't know what the... No. AII, because then it's AI 2.
HJ Osment.
AII :HJO 2.
An Amblin / Stanley Kubrick production.
Gosh, yeah. How often are you like
just this one time?
This one time.
But like, imagine ever seeing that again.
Presentation.
They're all high-fiving and shit. Like, we got him, bros. We got this fucking little kid to lay with a dead body.
Where dreams are born.
Cool. Fuck this little boy.
Teddy, get on up there. Do a little dance. Jump around, Teddy. Do your thing.
Teddy's like, fuck, I'm by myself.
Teddy.
Shit. Now he
He is
becomes
the
the god
god
to
of
all
these
the fucking...
He's the repository of all knowledge of all human history.
He's their ancestor.
Teddy, I am the Alpha and Omega.
Hello, I am Teddy. Yes, Teddy, we know.
We need David.
We've been waiting for you.
I need to find David. Can you help me find David? All right. Well, there it was. The movie.
Yep.
Stevie
By
Speeby.
Stevie Speeby.
Based on a story about Ian Watson. Okay.
Yes.
Short story.
Ian
Super
Watson.
It was
Toys last
a.
all summer
It
long.
was a. I was doing some research. It was based on a 1969 short story by Ian Watson called "Super Toys Last All Summer Long." Or no. It was the short story was called "Super Toys Last All Summer Long" by Brian Aldiss. And then Stanley Kubrick acquired the rights to the story in the 70s. And then he hired a bunch of writers, including Aldiss and then other people, until the mid-90s. And then it was in development hell for years, partly because Kubrick felt that computer-generated imagery was not advanced enough to create the David character, whom he believed no child actor would convincingly portray. And then in 1995, Kubrick handed AI to Spielberg. The film did not gain momentum, though, until Kubrick died in 1999. So,
There's a story. There's a
there you
fairy
go.
tale ending for you.
They said, Stan's gone.
Make it now.
Time to make it.
So,
Um,
first half of this movie, not a fan.
Yeah.
Second half of this movie, I was all right with.
yeah. At what point? At what point did you?
It
make
went
that
from
switch
just
over?
like it went from like heavy-handed allusions to Pinocchio to being like straight up Pinocchio for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and then the ending happened, right? So like, at what point when they fucking ditched the little boy in the woods, then I was like, then the fucking the flesh bear stuff started, which was just basically the fucking shit from Pinocchio. Except, and then like, from there on it was better, but I didn't give a shit for that little boy.
Yeah. I mean, as many times
Like I
as I've
said,
seen this,
yeah.
I've never ever really felt for the David character. I know.
Like I said, at the end of the movie, it's just like, no, this boy's being selfish as shit. He resurrected this lady who was barely his mother, and like, she just didn't want him dead because he just looked like a real boy.
Mm-hmm.
And like, just fucking literally resurrected her from the dead for a day in this post-apocalyptic hellscape just to be his mom for a fucking day, and then she dies again. Like, I'm not, why would I be happy about that?
There's so much weird trauma built up there because they say in the beginning, like, hey, your wife is like seriously not dealing with her grief about your son. And then all of a sudden she gets this robot shoved in her face. And like you said, like, I don't know what it's called, but there's like, isn't there a name for when, like a bird gets something in its nest and decides to raise it anyway or whatever, She just has something cute shoved in front of her. So she's like, I guess I won't kill it.
The only reason is because it looks like a real little, but that's the only reason he doesn't die at the flesh fair, because he looks like a real little boy. It doesn't matter. And like, what's hilarious is the dad gets him for the mom, and he's like, yeah, but proceeds to fucking hate the thing.
You just put it great. Like, he really does get it for the mom, and he treats it like he bought her like a freaking like toy Pomeranian, like a dog that's so small that it's basically just an accessory.
He was so excited to show it to her, though. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you're gonna kill me, bud. Like, he's excited.
Auntie Mahara. Nice.
So I thought like he was gonna be like into this kid. The mom was gonna have a tough time, but turns out he just fucking didn't think of it as anything but a toy the whole time. And the mom really had an attachment because it looked like a real child.
The dad wanted to get his wife off of his back so he could wear his dad's shirts and hang out with the other dads.
Well, then what was the purpose of the creator of Cybernetics to make David, other than like it's a replacement for his son? So he did it for selfish reasons, but then he's wanting to sell it to people. Then
he did it, and then he was just like, now everybody won't. So everybody who's lost to their David can have one now. You know what I mean?
He like, the way that he selected that family, like it's weird how they show it in the movie because they go through like a list and they're like, no, not this person on the list, not that person on the list, this family on the list. They've gone through the right circumstances,
But then
the right
you hear about
things
the
that
ulterior motive.
I think the dad works for the business too.
Oh,
I think
did
the
he?
dad works for the business too. So that's how.
Well, yeah, at the beginning,
Yeah.
after they were seeing their son in
But
the
regardless,
cryo
it's just,
or in carbonite, I'm gonna just call it carbonite. They saw their son
Yeah.
in carbonite. They're like, "Oh, we need to get our own."
Lizzie McGuire's
the son
brother.
of McGuire.
son of McGuire,
But
in
also,
Carbonite.
like he put David to a test. Like it seemed very weird to then make him understand human problem solving, and like that was his whole like purpose in life, was to like find his way back to him. And then
Yeah, that whole thing made no sense. Also, like,
What do you mean?
yeah,
oh,
like,
you're talking
we
about
gave
William
you
Hurt.
these tests. We
Yeah,
told
Hurt
Dr.
just-
No what he needed to know to get you here. So we
tomorrow, fucking Manhattan. Like,
because like Doctor knows like this weird esoteric quote that sounds like prophecy. Here's it credited from this book, and then when we get there, it's like built into his door. That same quote.
yeah, it turns out William Hurt was pulling the strings the whole time. No Pinocchio pun intended, but still Pinocchio pun.
But what? But so
Dumb.
he knew that eventually one day he would make a robot in the image of his son, give it to this family, who would then eventually abandon the kid
Yeah.
to have it go on this
I think
grand
it's once
adventure
he
to come
heard-
back to him.
I think it's once he heard that the kid got abandoned or left that he kind of set these things into place in hopes that the kid would find his way. I think.
it's a
I don't
weird-
know. It's bullshit.
Are you saying he had a door made when he fed him the line?
It's
Like,
from his,
Sure.
the
I don't
excerpt
know,
was
dude.
from his book by Alan,
Sorry,
whatever the fuck. Hobby. It says right there.
Hobby.
So
Professor Hobby.
yeah.
He's a hobby man.
But he put them to this weird test to be a more human-like being, because only up until David, the robots haven't been doing this certain task or fulfilling this certain thing. Like it's like a Turing test, but like David did it, and so he's the first of his kind. So it makes sense. You can hate him all you want, but he served his purpose for humanity in the end to be the connecting thread to these other mech organics, the combination of the mecha and the organic that William Hurt's character was trying to achieve, where they're sentient mechas, and so he's
Also-
the connecting to humans.
Yeah, so I guess that quote is probably like he wrote it in his book. It's probably something that he, came up with and has been like saying forever. So he had it fucking made into a door. And his goal, like you're saying, was to somehow develop a machine that would eventually learn how to feel emotions. And then once that happened, it allowed for the greater progression later on. And that's why the quote was about, or when somebody said at some point, like, oh, Professor Hobby knows the fucking secret how to make a mecha into Orga in the terms of the movie,
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, not everybody suffered from this, but there's a lot of moments where I don't know if it was
That's
just
the quote
bad
right there.
dialogue
That's
or bad
that's
performances
it. That's the quote.
or
I'm just
both.
putting it up there. The blue fairy.
Or
The idea of a blue fairy
What?
is part of the
Oh.
great human flaw to wish for things that don't exist. That's the sum
then
of
he,
a. Of
then
the
he
movie.
follows it up with like, or the greatest
I'll
gift.
continue that.
But then it's like you would have to know then that fucking
Yeah.
little shit boy would have to hear the mom reading the real son Pinocchio and him the blue fairy that way. Like it's just like retroactively a lot of things had to happen for that to work.
Yeah.
But yeah, throughout the movie, I don't know if it was just like I said, if it was bad dialogue or just bad performances or both, but there's a lot of just like that sounded weird. when people said things. Like,
Well, even
that didn't
the
sound
dialogue of "you're in a
Like-
bad," whatever the hell they said, and not a. What did they say again?
It mainly to me stuck out when it was like the beginning part with the parents. There was a lot of just like, ugh. And then the one that really stuck out to me with our little boy was at the end there when him and Teddy have that like when the fucking Ferris wheel falls on top of the thing and they have like a real quick exchange. It's just really weird. Doesn't
he's
sound
like,
right.
You're in a cage.
Yeah. Just like, I don't know. Blue Fairy's all right. We're in a cage. I don't know.
Do you think that? Well, here's a thought that I'm having. Maybe some of that weirdness, that awkwardness. I don't know what to attribute that to. To answer your question,
Well, because I would say is like maybe it's just Haley Joel Osment fucking trying to be a robot boy, but this occurs with human characters, not just robots. You know what I mean? Like I said, particularly with the mom and dad, it's just I don't know I don't know what it was. Like William Hurt was fine, Brendan
Jude Law
Gleeson was fine.
goofy.
Like those people were fine.
Well,
But,
I kind of get the
but, like,
feeling.
The parents, I don't know if it was just like I said, just bad writing or what, because it just kind of came off not good.
Yeah, the structure of this movie is like weird when you because the first third or however much until she fucking leaves him in the woods, it like this was in development hell for a long time. How many writers took passes at it? How much of this dialogue has like stayed in that should have been rewritten or taken out or whatever? And then put on top of that, it's just a weird ass movie to be shooting. Like how much of this was on blue screen or green screen sound stages and people acting to nothing or like, so it just all comes together in this weird amalgam. And then it's, you have somebody like Steven Spielberg who's like making super deliberate choices like that. The score of this movie is almost never not like
it's very
unsettling
very,
in some
like,
way.
dark, and it's very weird. Even in the jaunty parts where like there's that montage at the beginning of them like getting to know each other, like the mom and David. Even that was kind of frightening and unsettling, but it was meant to be like happy and quirky.
There's like,
all right, so okay. I'm sorry. I was reading the description of the short story, and something in here is it's something that they put in the movie that made no sense to me when it was happening. Remember when she goes in the room like after David accidentally almost drowns their son, and like he's sitting in his room. She goes in there and he's got all these like half finished letters and shit.
Yeah,
and they're like, one of them's like, me and fucking what's his fuck are your son, but not Teddy. Something. I hate Teddy. And you're like, what? Why does he hate Teddy? What's the situation here? Like they seem like they're bros. It's all connected. It's something from the story that like did not make it into, or that they didn't put in the movie. It's really weird because the short story. That's just like 3 paragraphs here. Like, in a dystopian future where only a quarter of the world's oversized human population is fed and living comfortably, families must request permission to bear children. Monica Swinton lives with her husband Henry and her young son David, with whom she struggles to bond. She seeks help from Teddy, a robot toy companion of sorts, to try to understand why she feels unable to communicate with David, let alone feel compassion for him. David also questions Teddy about whether his mother truly loves him and wonders whether he is truly real. He attempts to write letters of his own to explain how he feels about his mother and the inner conflict he faces, but all of his letters remain unfinished. Meanwhile, the story jumps to Henry, who is in a meeting with a company he is associated with, known as Synthink. They are discussing artificial life forms and bioelectronic beings for future developments. He discusses that the new AI under production will finally solve humanity's problems with experiencing personal isolation and loneliness. Monica discovers David's unfinished letters that portray lines about love and a jealous contempt for Teddy, whom Monica always seemed to connect with more than David himself. Monica is horrified by the letters, but overjoyed when Henry arrives home and she is able to share with him that the family has been chosen to give birth to a child by the Ministry of Population. It is then revealed that David is an artificial life form used as a replacement for a real child. Monica privately tells Henry that David is having verbal malfunctioning problems and must be sent back to the factory at once. The story ends with David thinking of the love and warmth of his mother, unaware of what is to happen next. That's the story.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So a lot of things were changed for this movie.
It to me it seems like the whole first part with him and his parents at home, it feels like there's a lot left in the edit there.
Yeah. Well, and then because then it's like the Teddy letter shit makes zero sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like they added the whole Pinocchio bit because he was just chomping at the bit to get some let's make this a fucking Pinocchio thing.
And like, for as important of a character as he is to the story, their son Martin spends less on like time on screen than a fucking sex robot.
Yeah. and their son doesn't even exist in the original story. So like they just prop up they use this story as basically a framework to put in this Pinocchio storyline, essentially. But with artificial intelligence instead of wood boys.
Well, it's weird how overtly they call it out sometimes, especially at the very, very end when he goes to Pinocchio land.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm saying. It started out as like ham-fisted Pinocchio stuff, even them reading the story, then to it literally becoming Pinocchio when they go to when he goes to the flesh fair, and it's just like the weird fair thing that
it's like
Pinocchio
Steven
was
Spielberg's
in.
MO, though. He does that a lot.
And then,
he likes to tie things into fairy tales. Even in Jurassic Park, there was a tie to Alice in Wonderland, and characters were named after Charles Dodson, like Dodson, we got Dodson here, and Charles Ludwig Dodson was Lewis Carroll's real name. So, I mean, he loves to be the tongue-in-cheek, like, hey, fairy tale.
Right.
Well,
and then it went towards the fairy tale all the way till then fucking he, gets trapped underwater, then gets brought out in this science fiction thing, but then it just leads him to live out a fairy tale again at the end for a minute. A weird thing. So it's like, a lot of the story stuff doesn't make sense or feels weird because it's just stuff that was inserted, essentially.
Yeah.
But could you imagine if they made a movie out of the story as is, pretty much? You know what I mean? Like where you don't really find out that fucking David's not a real boy till like the end.
I can see that as
he just
like
gets
A24.
Yeah, and then they're taking him to the fucking factory to get decommissioned or whatever the fuck, and it's just left to hang at the end. You just see him getting taken there, and it's done.
So,
tight.
Just to cover specifically, the kind of thread that I was picking up on from Dracula was in
Real boy.
What do you mean, real boy?
Dracula's like, I could be a real boy.
Exact words.
You know what I mean?
I remember Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman said that.
I'm not a monster. I'm a real boy, and that's what this was too.
Sure. No. That Dracula movie, there are, and we talked about this when we watched it, there are parts of it that feel specifically very ethereal and dreamlike and just like there's so many parts of it that reminded me of this, because whenever people talk about things feeling in a movie or TV show feeling dreamlike, feeling detached from reality, or like so separate in its own little microcosm, I think of this, because look at this. Look at this fucking scene that's happening right now. They do this so much. The backlighting through any window or anywhere that you could glimpse the outside world, it's like totally obscured from the audience. So you kind of like, until you get to the parts where he's going through the forest, but even then it's like a fairy tale swamp or forest. The only real like location that we end up going to is Manhattan. And even then it's like, larger than life and a weird kind of place. But so much of this, you feel like you're just like floating through this place with no context of where you are, where limits of anything is. You're just like, and especially at the end when like he is in like a weird pocket reality or something, or simulation, but there's so much of this, the unnerving tone that is like weaved throughout the whole first half of it. There's so much of it that leads it to just feeling like it maybe uncanny valley. It's just like so separate and so oddly sterile. The house that they live in, to me, feels like it exists in a void. When he's there with his parents, I always feel like the moment that they step out of the door, nothing exists.
Right.
Maybe it was all simulation, the whole thing.
Well,
Maybe
the dad, remember, like the dad that looked like about 8 different people?
Yeah.
I remember them all.
I remember them.
So his name is Sam Robards, and he is the son of Jason Robards, who he played Cheyenne in Once Upon a Time in the West, and he was in Magnolia and All the President's Men and like stuff like that. And his mother was Lauren Bacall.
I love Lauren Bacall.
Yeah,
Bogey and Bacall, man. Bogey, Humphrey Bogey.
So he was a fucking nepo baby, dude.
So this Robards man had a little Robards son.
Yeah, yeah. And what's funny is you go to Sam Robards' Wikipedia page, and it's like he was the actor. He's best known for the role of Henry Swinton in AI artificial.
Okay,
really remembering.
Good for him. Hey, good for us getting to behold Henry Swinton's best performance, his most well-known performance in AI.
What a high note, a high watermark right there.
Henry Swinton. But do you understand what I mean?
Yeah,
of this?
It feels
like,
sterile. It feels like the thing is that Steven was trying to do a Stanley movie, and I don't know if he succeeded doing a Stanley movie. Maybe it was just a Stanley vision. Because this had a lot of Steven flair to it and sensibilities. And, I mean... Yeah,
John Williams' score certainly didn't help.
If it was Stanley, he would have just picked needle drops and, random shit. Or make some kind of funky music that fits with the period. But
to me, this is like... The ending feels very like 90% Spielberg, 10% Kubrick. I feel like Kubrick would have been like way more realistic in a way.
Sure. Yeah.
It's not like these machines like, oh, we're digging up humans because we aspire to learn everything about them because they were so great and they must be the center of the universe. They're just like, oh, we found you. What are you doing down there, little robot boy? Bring your mommy back? That's silly. No.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say if it's intended as a Spielbergian or a Kubrickian ending. I don't know if he just was trying to be faithful to Stanley and being like, I'm just going to try to do a movie as if Stanley would do it. So, damn it all if it has a somber or not as uplifting of an ending. Yeah, but I mean, I enjoyed some of it. I enjoyed some of the movie. I'll say that. I liked.
Yeah, there are parts I enjoyed, parts that were fun to watch.
Weird time.
Not a fan of the first half.
It's definitely not like one of my favorites, and it's not one that I would even say is like
yeah.
It's at least a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, this as far as Steven goes,
Yeah.
it's a miss. It's a miss for Steven, I would
Definitely
say.
interesting.
But if this was in the hands of Kubrick, like it's hard to say. This might have been a lot better than what we were given by Steven. And I like a lot of his stuff that came out during the early 2000s, like Minority Report and shit like that. Like that's a great future kind of movie about an idea of an AI precog, you know, like understanding pre-crime and things like that, and using AI through individuals that were kind of like born in such a funky way that they can do crazy things. I don't know. It's just an interesting take on futurism or postmodernist.
I'm thinking about the ending here again, and I keep wanting to call them aliens, but they're not aliens. But it's just so much more simple to call them that.
Yeah.
The aliens at the end were like, yes, little robot boy, we will revive your human mother. She'll only live for 1 day. But guess what? We're also going to let your little robot teddy bear tag along. Like they totally omitted that he was there. Shouldn't they have been like, you reviving your dead mother is a stretch enough. The presence of this robot bear might raise some questions for her. So we're going to ask him to just hang out with us for the day. He's like bombing around with them.
Just the three of them.
Just the three of them in a pocket dimension of time and space.
And then he just sits and watches them die, and he just chills there.
Did
Forever.
they say at the end that David
pretty much
shut down?
He went to sleep and finally went to the place where dreams become whatever.
Yeah, that's what it's like, the somber.
So I think it was just him dying. So
it is like a weird, not time travel, but like, I don't know if you would call it like closed loop.
Kind of.
Like he's the first machine to like, you know, dream and pursue a goal in that way that William Hurt was talking about. And they're the sum total of that, or, you know, like
They are, yeah. So he's closing the loop for them because they were built by machine, or they were built by humans.
Every single,
maybe machines at a certain point after humans all died started creating themselves in the image of humans, and then they wanted to learn more about them, but they don't have that. He's the missing piece. He's the missing piece of that puzzle that they can finally uncover.
Well, oh God. Okay, hold on, because they say like, David, you're the only person. You're the only being that has had any interaction with humans whatsoever.
Like have experience with.
Yeah. So why don't they have a robot who like that's so weird that they don't have like any other robots that are still around that have had interactions with humans. If he can survive for that long, why can't any of the other however many were made, you know? Because Gigolo Joe was like, oh, they made us too smart too fast. So they made like a lot of them and made humans redundant in some places.
Yeah, maybe that was just a plot hole.
I don't think a plot hole. I think I'm reading into it where it doesn't need to be. Oh, Steven is doing a fun shout out to his boy Lucas here. Look at that Death Star.
I thought that's no
moon.
I thought
that's
that would
no
be
moon.
an Amblin reference. E.T. gonna fly across there.
Well, it is not an alien. I keep fucking. I'm not gonna mispronoun these things.
They're synthetic organics. I don't know what you would call them.
They are. Well, they say that they're machines, but they, I guess, have evolved to the point where that, you know, line between machine and organic is basically
'cause it looks like their
non-existent.
skin, if you'd call it that, is like a silicone or some kind of see-through rubber or something, and then it's like holding in all the components of the tech that's in there. And like we pointed out, even in that face, or the head, it had like a kind of some semblance of a features of a face on there.
There are like subtle parts where they like brighten certain areas of what would be the face, where there's like supposed to be eyes, or they darken other areas, or they shape like the kind of translucent skin or whatever to make it look. Yeah, this movie is like good as context or within context, if that's weird to say. It's not like fun to watch on its own, but it's kind of fun to like think about it alongside some other stuff.
It's a good discussion piece on like, do you think he he got lost in the sauce? He was just like, hey, I'm doing it for Stanley, man. You do it for Stanley. This one's for Stan.
This one's for
I did
Stan.
it for you, boy.
You know who had fun in this movie? Like making it?
Who?
But Jude Law had fun.
Yeah. It said that he like studied Fred Astaire and stuff to get his movements down and whatever.
Yeah.
I did some research on it.
He didn't have to do any weird stuff like that was like stunt or
Didn't have to study Jennifer Lopez or anything.
J-Lo Joe.
J-Lo Joe.
Well, hey, this movie is called AI. AI is so good now. Why can't we tell it? Please replace Jude Law in this movie with Jennifer
Let's talk
Lopez.
about that a bit. How, other than your connecting thread, and remind us again, what was your thread? Just to sum everything up.
Well, the thread was some of the feeling of like the dreaminess or etherealness, and then the other part of it was like they're both about love. This fucking little robot boy goes on this epic quest and gets his wish granted, all because he learns how to love. And that Dracula, he wanted to be a real boy too.
Yeah, it's all about we're not monsters, we're real boys. That's what both these movies are.
Yeah, it gives me a lot to think about for the next one that I pick. A connecting.
That's your choice.
I'm gonna be sitting on it for a little bit.
Your choice.
Okay.
That's what she said.
I'll be sitting in that space. I'll be sitting in that little limbo space that Haley Joel.
Oh, are you going to be trapped there with him and his undead mom and
I wouldn't
Teddy?
mind hanging out with Teddy. That dude.
Hey, Joe?
I liked him a lot.
Oh yeah, that was the other thing. That dude's like a decorated voice actor.
Mm-hmm.
Done a lot of shit. He was in some Transformers stuff. He was in like Hey Arnold. He's done a lot of stuff for a long time.
I'm pretty sure that he was the shark in Toy Story 1, where he's like, "I'm Sheriff Woody. Howdy, howdy, howdy."
Maybe, because he did say he did various voices in Toy Story. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is just what I don't know why, because I've seen that Dracula movie before, but when we watched it, maybe it was just what we were talking about and like what we hit upon and stuff, but it just made me think of this for some reason.
Yeah, and just it kind of hit us at an interesting point in our history of this channel, because we've been doing a lot of AI things anyway, so it's kind of ties in nicely to a lot of content we've been making. Not to the extent of we're making little boys, but we've made some little boys. We made some boys.
We could make a little boy. We could name our chat GPT. We could tell it.
Gigolo Joe.
We name you.
Your name is J-Lo Joe.
J-Lo Joe or Hey Joe.
J-Lo, Joe, Hey Joe,
I like
HJ.
HJ. That's cute.
Why do you always leave off the O? It's always just HJ. I mean, I guess I know why, but
Good job.
you'd rather complete the hand job than you would the name.
Yeah,
Good-
obviously.
good for you.
You always complete the hand job.
You always go for the best.
Monkey!
So that's our discussion on AI, artificial intelligence. Let us know what you think of the movie. Go watch it on Amazon. Comment on this video if you want to discuss a little bit more about the themes or whatever that maybe we didn't discuss that you want to bring up. I like to interact with the people, and we're getting a lot of new viewers and new subscribers. So I don't know what they're watching. They like our AI stuff. This video is going to be called AI, obviously. So,
If you like our AI stuff, go ask an AI what it thinks about this movie, and then leave that as a comment on this video.
If you like our AI stuff, you'll like our
you like
HJ
Bradshaws
stuff
HJ
too.
stuff he's offering up free of charge.
Leave it to Eric to offer up the good sauce.
So yeah, thank you boys for joining me as we watch this movie, and good discussions all around. Give yourselves a monkey.
No. Thank you. Monkey.
Monkey!
Bradshaw, you'll be able to hear this once this goes up. So all these little
Monkey!
Hey, I had it up. I just played it again. So yeah, I have the YouTube video up.
okay.
See, this is one of those things that like one of us mentions something and then it's going to stick in our vernacular for a while. We're just going to be like monkey. Anytime
we
we
should do all
anything
those funny quotes like I like your shoes.
I like your shoes. I want to rewatch Forrest Gump again.
Maybe
soon.
we'll have the time another day, but for right now, we gotta sign off and say bye.
You're fluctuating between
Bill and not
Bill
Bill and Forrest
and
Gump
not Bill.
and Teddy and whoever else.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like
And like those
comment,
shoes.
subscribe. Like those shoes all the way.